Professor Layton and the Curious Village.
Hey guys, what the fuck is up, you guys? My name is eManDan642, and welcome to the first ever review in this new series of reviews on this channel. As you could see, the recording quality is not fucking awful. It's not awful. That is because I finally got a new phone. I didn't get a new phone just for the new videos, but I got a new phone because my previous phone sucked ass. I got a new microphone. And without further ado, for the first review, I decided to review Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Why? Because you can't tell me what to fucking do, bitch. Why would I review a game that's popular and widely talked about at the moment when I could, where I could generate a decent amount of views, when instead I could talk about a 13-year-old DS game that no one cares about except for me? I first played Professor Layton and the Unknown Future a long time ago on the DS, and I really liked it. I eventually got the rest of the games except for the newest one, Arzan Legacy, and the newest one, Catriel's Mystery Journey. That's also a spin-off, kinda, but not really. But besides those two, I've played the rest. There are 6 mainline games, which are divided up into 2 trilogies. Just like Star Wars, the second of the trilogies are prequels. The first 4 games are on the DS, and the last 2 are on the 3DS. These games are puzzle games, where you solve puzzles as an English gentleman, Professor Herschel Layton, and his apprentice Luke Triton. In Curious Village, the story starts with Layton receiving a letter from Lady Dahlia Reinhold, widow of the late Baron Augustus Reinhold, who passed away 2 months prior to the start of the game. Layton and Luke go to the village to help solve an inheritance dispute. And that's the plot of the game. Haha, just kidding, bitch. You really thought I would take on such an ordinary quest as that? Oh no, this is an altogether unique and exciting situation, and it has piqued my intellectual curiosity, but I suppose it would be best to explain the case before we arrive at our destination. Shortly before Baron Reinhold's death, his will was disclosed, revealing the Reinhold family treasure, also known as the Golden Apple, which, suspiciously, no one has heard of. Thinking that the treasure leads to a bigger mystery, Layton decides to take on this mystery and head out to Saint Mystere, a really peculiar village that has an odd obsession with puzzles. After entering the village, you start to notice there's something odd about these characters, to say the least. Not just the side characters, but the main characters. Everyone, really. Upon your journey to the Reinhold Manor, you meet Raymond Reinhold, who is the weird lip guy. In the manor, you meet Matthew, who is the family butler. Next are the 3 figures next in line for the Reinhold fortune. Baron's nephew, Simon, who is a snobby prick. Baron's brother, Gordon, who is an insecure cuck who won't
stop McWhining
and search for a wife, and Baron's wife, Lady Dahlia. When you first meet Dahlia, a loud noise shakes the entire manor, and her cat Claudia runs away. Dahlia then sends you to find Claudia instead of solving the actual mystery. Wait, who's that? Some creepy guy's lurking in the shadows after the crash. I wonder who that could be. You go around solving some puzzles and talk to some more wackos before catching Claudia and heading back to the manor. But no, upon your arrival, something bad has happened. Simon has been murdered in cold blood, which is not really spoilers, by the way. It happens in like the 2nd chapter of the game. Inspector Shelmy arrives, who is an important character in the next few games, and you find the only clue in the murder scene, a small wooden cog. And this is where the story of the game truly starts, as there are more important parts that I will talk about later, such as Baron's previous wife, mysterious abductions, the rumbling tower, and many more. The gameplay is pretty simple. You rarely have to use the buttons. You mostly only need to use the touchscreen. It is an early DS game after all. Just like a point-and-click game, all you do is point and click. You tap the shoe icon and the arrow to move, you tap doors to go inside, you tap the people to talk to them. Pretty simple, right? But you could also tap things in the world that look suspicious. There's hidden puzzles that you could find on your own just from tapping around, and you could find hint coins in the world too, which are the game's cheat system. You use them in puzzles if you're stuck. Each puzzle has 3 hints. If you're going for a no hint run, they're basically useless, but I guess they could be kind of a cool collectible, though they have no purpose. The central element of the games, the puzzles themselves, are pretty good. Not the best in the series, but are a good selection for being the first game. I realized when replaying the game, A lot of the puzzles I didn't really remember, but I only fully played through the game one time prior to beating the game recently, and I was a dumb little kid at the time. And when I replayed the game, I did a 100% puzzle run, so a lot of the puzzles I never played as a kid. There are many types of puzzles in the game, including interactive type puzzles, which are my favorites, which include sliding puzzles mainly, where you slide a ball or some sort of object to get to the goal, or really any puzzle that involves you tapping around and moving shit on the screen. Brain teasers, which I also really like, because it takes a good amount of thought to actually come up with the answer, but it's always fun. They're logic based and it always makes sense. It's like an oh yeah when you get the answer, those type of puzzles. And math problems, which I don't really like because, for one, I don't really like math, and two, I suck ass at it. Although most of them aren't too hard, they aren't just that fun to play, at least in my opinion. There are a few specific ones which I do like a good amount, but a majority of them aren't the funnest and aren't my favorites. Most of the puzzles are decently simple, though some of them are pretty challenging, and it's effective and it works in the game's favor.
The only puzzle in this game is why anyone likes it.
There are 120 puzzles total to solve in the main story, just like Super Mario 64, but you only need to solve 82 to beat the game. Throughout the game, there will be multiple roadblocks that prevent you from progressing in the game if you haven't solved enough puzzles. I've always found these annoying as a kid, but now I don't mind them too much, because now when replaying I like to go out my way and solve as many puzzles as I can. So by the time I reach these roadblocks, I already have more than enough puzzles. But it can be really annoying if you don't, and if you have to go back and solve ones that you've missed. But it's not too bad because you could visit Granny Riddleton and her shack. She stores all the puzzles that you can't get to anymore. There is a score-based system in the game where solving puzzles will give you a certain amount of picker-ats, which range from as low as 10 up to 80, depending on how hard the puzzle is. If you get the answer wrong on a puzzle, then the number of picker-ats will decrease. They aren't important to the main game at all, besides just the score telling you how good you are, but they unlock some cool shit in the bonus section, which I'll talk about later. All the Professor Layton games have 3 mini-games, and you unlock these mini-games by solving puzzles. In Curious Village, they're a little more limited and more collectathon-y than in later games. From solving puzzles around town, you can sometimes get gizmos, furniture, or painting scraps. The gizmos are pieces to a robotic dog that will help you find hint coins throughout the village when completing it. Upon completing it, it'll unlock the Inventor's House in the bonus menu. Luke and Layton have to stay at an inn in St. Mystere, so you can customize their rooms with furniture you get, and their happiness meters will tell you what furniture Luke and Layton specifically like. And when completing it, it'll unlock the Decorator's House. The third is the Painting Scraps, which is basically a jigsaw puzzle that you put together that will form a picture of Baron's former wife, Lady Viola, and it'll unlock the Art Lover's House. Each of these houses have 3 puzzles that have some of the hardest puzzles in the game. The whole game has a pretty nice environment. It can be kind of dated, especially compared to later entries, but it's still good and still very nice looking. St. Mystere is a nice looking place, even though in my opinion the game and the characters are kinda one-dimensional. Besides the main characters, everyone else ranges from mildly interesting to completely forgettable, which can be understandable for such a wide assortment of characters, but the other games in the series have much more memorable characters. The side characters I do remember were mostly from one singular personality trait, and not because of any interesting dialogue or anything interesting they did. I remember Marco because he wobbles around and is blind or something. I remember Polly because he's always angry. I remember Andrea because she's always laughing at Polly. I remember Prosciutto, or however you say his name, because he's always eating food. And I wouldn't have remembered their names if I didn't just look them up, and I barely remember anything they said. I remember Statch and Scarfin and Pavel because they are in numerous games after this one. But besides that, everyone else is mostly a blur. And St. Mystere, though it's a nice town, I like it, but it's pretty one-dimensional. The whole place looks way too similar to itself, and there's not that many interesting areas you could really go besides the main town, a few shops and houses along the way, the Reinhold Manor, the sewer, the amusement park, and the tower, which are all cool, but there's not much to it. And it kind of gets old after a little bit. The music, though, it hurts me so much to say this because the Professor Layton series has my favorite soundtrack out of any video game series. I can't really choose one game, but this game definitely has the worst soundtrack out of them all. I do really like the Curious Village soundtrack, and a lot of the songs do a really good job at encapsulating the mood of Saint Mystere, with its not exactly creepy, but just eerie and unsettling atmosphere. But a lot of songs sound way too samey in instrumentation and just sound. One thing that is consistently really good throughout the series is the dialogue, and this game is no exception. Even some of the more forgettable characters do have some good dialogue, though it can be kind of forgettable, and most of it I barely remembered when replaying it, but still, there's some really good ass dialogue in the game. But it also kind of sucked because most of the side characters only had a few lines of dialogue before being completely forgotten about in the abyss. The presentation is mostly good, but it isn't perfect, as the character portraits are very inconsistent and annoying. Some of them are facing you and some of them are facing to the side, and it's annoying. And the shorter characters' bodies are completely on screen, and you could see their feet or legs on the screen after the dialogue box fades away, as they are standing on some sort of invisible stool or something, which broke the immersion for me. One of the best and kinda worst things about the presentation are the cutscenes. Now, for being a DS game in 2007, they look great. And really, if the cutscenes are in high quality, they look outstanding. They really bring a new level of life into the game and the village and the characters, but the problem is it's on the DS, so it doesn't look exactly the best. Another thing, the voice acting is really nice. Everyone sounds really good except for European Luke. He has a different voice than the US because apparently the US's voice is offensive or something. But most of these characters I cannot imagine voice acted by anyone else. Quick side note, if a DS game from 2007 has voice acting, how come a Pokemon game that has a way higher budget, that is on the Switch, a much more powerful home console from 2019, does not have voice acting? Well, I see a problem there. As we near the end of the journey of Curious Village, I will be talking about spoilers, so click wherever the fuck I say to go click for no more spoilers. After Simon is murdered, Raymond disappears and is thought to be kidnapped, which has been something that has been happening often in the town recently, and oddly enough, or not, seeing how everyone in this town is a bunch of nutjobs, everyone seems to brush the kidnappings off like they're not even happening. You find multiple notes from a journal all across the village, from someone who works for Baron, detailing his wife's death and the creation of something? We don't exactly know what. Luke and Layton search in the marketplace and are handed a flower vase that's mistakenly thought to be Layton's, but it is not. There we also find a newspaper article about Shelmy and his wife, Emile. Layton returns to the manor and Raymond just shows up with no memory of being kidnapped whatsoever. At the manor, Shelmy accuses Layton of murdering Simon with the vase that was displayed in the room in which Simon was found dead, which was the same vase that Layton held in the marketplace, which was obviously a setup. Shelmy makes a slip-up, and Layton reveals him to be this mysterious man that crashed near the manor in the beginning, Don Powell. After that, we head to the manor and open it using a key Luke and Layton found earlier. In the tower, there is a series of some of the hardest puzzles in the game yet. And at the top, there is the Golden Apple herself, the daughter of the late Baron Reinhold, Flora. The whole search for the Golden Apple was to find someone worthy of being Flora's guardian once Baron died. And I won't reveal the rest of the ending, you'll just have to play for yourself. Bitch! Don Paulo then attacks the tower, and before it could completely fall down, Layton and Luke flee the tower and stop his plans, and he escapes with a Spider-Man-like "I'll get you next time" quip, which I thought was kinda cringe, bro, and then he just disappears. And with that, the mystery of the Golden Apple is solved, and Layton, Luke, and now Flora leave Saint Mystere. Once beating the game, you will unlock the Golden Apple's house, and once you beat the first 4 houses, you will unlock the Puzzle Master's house, which has the hardest puzzles in the game. Next, there is the top secret area, which is what you get from collecting Picker Rats. There you can view character profiles, artwork, music, voice clips, cutscenes, and the hidden door. And the only way to unlock the hidden door is by beating the next game in the series, Diabolical Box. Professor Layton and the Curious Village is a simple puzzle game. Everything about the game is good. There's nothing inherently that bad about the game, but there's nothing inherently making it stand out that much compared to its later entries in the series. It's a short game through. It took me about 5.5 hours, but I was basically speedrunning it. The game should take you about 10 to 12ish hours playing normally. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on how you play it. If you were looking to get into the series, this is not the best game. I would recommend this if you were a fan of Professor Layton or puzzle games and you want to try it out. But if you weren't, then it wouldn't be the game for you. If you want to start with the series, I'd personally recommend Diabolical Box, the next game in the series. But if you do enjoy that, I'd recommend coming back. There isn't that much continuity, so it's not like you're really gonna miss anything. I did enjoy the characters, the story, and the game a decent amount. The gameplay being relatively same throughout the series, but everything else is improved on a good amount in future titles. I did enjoy this game when I first played it, and I did enjoy the game now. The only kind of major problem with Layton games is the replayability. Being a puzzle game, once you find out how to solve the puzzles and you know how to solve them, there's not much of a point to come back. I still enjoy coming back to these games, and I will enjoy future titles, but I'd say give it a while before you really replay one of these games. There may not be much replayability with these games, but the first experience is not any less good. I am going to give Professor Layton and the Curious Village a 7 out of 10. A promising start to a very good franchise. This came along with the 2 sequels, Diabolical Box and Unknown Future, were remastered on mobile, which, as much as it hurts to say, is perfect for them. And they're only $9.99 except for Unknown Future, which is $13.99, but still very worth it. So, if any of you are interested in this game, or the 2 sequels, which are much better, then I implore you, just go fucking play it. Go fucking buy the game, okay? This has been Professor Layton and the Curious Village. Fuck you.